Thank you. Here we are, Stewardship Sunday. Although, like Lynn said, every Sunday is Stewardship Sunday, I'll be brief because, I think you guys do a nice job. But I have a few things I want to share. Stewardship Sunday is sometimes a day dreaded by people in the pews. And it's a day that's sometimes dreaded by ministers and other clergy. Apparently, the late, great Reverend Dr. William Sloane Coffin used to begin all of his Stewardship Sundays with the same story. It's the story of a son who just couldn't get himself out of bed on a Sunday morning, and the story of his mother who had to get the son to go to church. So the son is lying in bed, avoiding the Sunday morning rituals, when his mother comes to the door and says, "Son, it's high time you got out of bed and went to church." And the son responds groggily, "Mom, I'm not going." "Why not?" demands the mother. The son responds, "They don't like me and I don't like them. Now give me 2 reasons why I should go." The mother sighs and says, "First, you're 40 years old. And second, you're their pastor." Stewardship Sunday is dreaded because I think we're talking about money, and money is such an awkward topic. Many of us procrastinate in talking about it, even with our partner or spouse, if we have one. People generally don't talk about money much with their friends at all in any deep way. It feels impolite. Why is it so hard? It's only money, after all. Or as Terry Satina writes, "Yes, it's only money, but that's like saying it's only a piranha." What other inanimate entity can cause cringes among colleagues, ignite arguments between friends, and leave family relationships strained? It can make members of a congregation cringe too, or create awkward feelings and all sorts of nasty tension, even if unspoken. In many churches, I would preach a full-blown sermon today, and I'd preach about generosity. But here I feel like I'd be preaching to the choir. I feel like folks here at FCU are incredibly generous with their time and talent, and likewise are as generous as they can be with their treasure or financial resources. In many churches, I would be preaching a homily today about the way we spend our money reflects our values. But again, I feel like I'd be preaching to the choir. In many churches, my sermon would remind you that there aren't many voices left in society to talk about the kind of things that we talk about. We're one of the few institutions that makes your values come alive in the world, all the while with community and fun and food. And again, I think you already know that. I think that's why you're here today, out of all the places in the world that you could be. But here we are. Time for the dreaded Sermon on the Amount, as it has been called. So what's the right amount to pledge? I think one of the reasons people fear this sermon, or homily in this case too, is that it's going to be like one big guilt trip. You have to pledge so that we can keep our lights on. You have to pledge so that we can pay the staff. You have to pledge so that we can function here. And all of that is true. There are bills to pay, of course, work to be done. I could spell it out exactly, sort of what the expense per member is, the amount that the congregation pays for all sorts of different expenses, and divide that by the number of members and friends, and tell you that's the annual membership fee. But that's not the way we do it. We don't give you a cost per member. It's just not the right way to think about it. After all, when NPR does its pledge drives, they don't say, this is the annual cost of the Moth or the Connection, and this is the number of listeners, and so please send in your check for this. It doesn't work that way. For starters, everyone has a different ability to give. Next to the guilt trip element, I think this is the other reason people don't like to talk about money. There's more economic diversity than might meet the eye here in these pews. Statistically, Unitarian Universalists are pretty well off compared to the average American, but certainly not all UUs are well off financially, and I guarantee you that we run the gamut here at FCU. Along with race, class issues, and other economic issues can be hard to discuss, but they're reality. And today, I don't want you to feel guilty if you're among the very well off, and I certainly don't want you to feel shame if you're one struggling financially. I just ask for us to take a deep breath and remember with compassion that everyone here has a unique situation. In different incomes, we have different outflows. I know that some of you have dependents, people who rely on you for support. You might have other hidden expenses, medical expenses, any number of things. In reality, for each one of us who can afford to give a larger pledge, there are several of us who might not be able to give a larger pledge. And that's not really what it's all about. It's about doing what you can. For those of us who can give larger pledges, we are grateful that you're giving what you can, whatever that is, and we're especially grateful that you're here with us participating. For those of you who can't give a very big pledge this year, please know that we are also equally grateful to have you among us and grateful to have you participating with us. Please know that and hear that. Believe it, it's true. Last week, I told a joke before we collected the offering. And this week, we of course had a special share the plate rather than the usual offering. But you might have noticed by now that most weeks, the simple introduction for the offering is, this morning's offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation. Those are words you can actually find in our hymnal, words by Ellen Johnson Fay. And I think that's really at the heart of it all. We receive gifts with gratitude, but we also give gifts with gratitude. Gratitude is certainly a core value for a faithful life. As the 14th century mystic Meister Eckhart put it, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. You might know that well-known phrase from one of Paul's letters in the Christian New Testament. Many people quote the line as, money is the root of all evil. But that omits the all-important word, love. The love of money is the root of all evil. And even then, we have to be careful about the meaning. What we're talking about is the selfish love of money, the hoarding of money. That can be evil or sinful or whatever word you might choose. Money itself is just a tool. It's a societal tool. It's possible to use money to make the world better, as we did today by sharing our offering plate with Bold. And today, when you think about your pledge, I hope you can think about money in that way. Today, I ask you to go ahead and love your money, not for its own sake, but I ask you to love money for the potential that it represents. I ask you to love money as an amazing tool that helps us to work toward a better church, a better community, a better world. Money used in the service of something bigger than yourself, that's something quite magical. And this morning, I don't ask that you give until it hurts. Rather, I ask, as they say, that you give until it feels good. Give with gratitude. Let that be your guide. Only you can know how much giving feels good. This stewardship season and in this lifetime, may you give until you feel abundance and hope. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.